then Humboldt University, and DCU, Dublin City University, DCU Ireland. Besides that, we have experts from industries who are working at, say, Microsoft Research Lab, then Samsung Research Institute, SRI Bangalore, and as well as Wipro AI Lab Bangalore at the same time. Then there are other colleagues, I think that starts with Tanmay today. Then colleagues from IIT Guwahati, our own experts at NIT Silchar also. Now at India, being a multilingual country, so if we look into the technology aspect of it, we have a lot of things to do in multilinguality, in developing multilingual solutions. And in today's world on the natural language processing domain, it is not limited to text alone. So the multimodality has also come into place. And in this 5 days faculty development program, we have put thrust not only on the text-based aspects, but also on the speech processing part as well. The image we could not include, because image also, through image we can say a lot of things, because language is ultimately a mode of communication along with the people, along with the two stakeholders. And text, speech, as well as the image, they basically form the backbone, the multimodal mode of communication. So today's world on natural language processing, say though language is basically has a set of grammar rules also. That is the way we actually write it in the textbook or in the newspapers or in the research papers. But when we talk the language, share the language among ourselves, so we take some more liberty in doing that. When we use the language in social media, we take further liberty in developing our own vocabulary, developing our own, say, the syntax, the semantics, so that we have a lot of, we have some presentations on the social networks also. But the kind of freedom that the social network gives one to express, so the text analytics that actually comes into play, that is where we need to be more cautious, the responsibilities we need to know. So what Tanmay is going to speak today, or what Anupam will be talking on Friday itself, on the networking aspect, or how to combat the hostile posts in social media. Besides that, there are other core natural language processing tasks like grammatical error correction, word embedding, then multi-word expressions. Then language model is also an important component in today's data-driven way of working with the natural languages. And obviously, that is what we see. There is a lot of models that have come into place with millions of parameters. And sometimes that puts it quite difficult for our scholars to get the right computational facility. So that the question like whether do we need such kind of, say, large language models, very huge language models with millions of parameters. That is the GPT, BART, and the her levels. So that also puts a question, because many studies have been done where it has been shown that if the number of parameters are reduced to a large extent, the performance of the system is not reduced that much. So there are a lot of debates. That is, in fact, I think something around 30 years ago, when we started working in the area of the natural language processing, the world has changed quite a lot by then. But the core philosophy of working with the natural language processing, that remains the same. And many of the colleagues in today's natural language processing world, I personally had the opportunity of working with many of them. And so obviously at NIT Silchar, we have also formed one center for natural language processing, where we consolidated whatever work we started earlier and whatever work was continuing at NIT Silchar to take it further to the next level. And if we look into the national education policy, so there is a thrust on the Indian languages. And when we talk about thrust on Indian languages, it is not only, say, limited to thinking of, say, how a course can be taught in one's own language, but it is more about how these technology advancements can be extended to each and every Indian languages per se. And on that count, that is our work in the Center for Natural Language Processing and similar works in other institutes and universities across the country and across the globe, that is basically doing a lot of works in these areas. So I wish the program will be a grand success. I'll try to be present in some of these talks, maybe at the beginning, if time permits me, because many of my old students and many of my old colleagues are here as a speaker. So it will be a nice meeting kind of thing. And what we'll be expecting, that is the seed for working in the language technology area that we started, say, something around 30-35 years ago in India. So that activity will bloom, and more and more collaborative activities across the country and across the globe will flourish, and all the languages and all the communications will extend or explode to the next level, so that people can communicate with each other in more open way in their own languages. And with this, I wish this program a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now, it's my privilege to invite Dr. Tanmoy Chakraborty from IIT Delhi. He will be presenting on combating hostile posts on social media, leveraging linguistic signal and social networks. Dr. Tanmoy is an assistant professor and a Ramanujan Fellow at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Delhi, India. Prior to this, he was a postdoctoral researcher at University of Maryland, College Park, USA. He completed his PhD as a Google India PhD Fellow at IIT Kharagpur, India. His research group LCS2 broadly works in the area of social network analysis and natural language processing, with a major focus on designing data-driven solutions for cyber informatics. He is a recipient of several prestigious awards, including Faculty Awards Fellowship from Google, IBM, and DAD. He is also involved in mentoring several tech startups. He has recently co-authored a book on data science for fake news detection, survey, and perspectives. Now, may I request you, sir, to kindly start your keynote session?
So thanks for the introduction. I hope you can see me, right? And you can also hear me?
Yes, sir.
So should I share my screen? Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
You see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. So it's visible.
Just a minute. It's a little awkward to speak in front of my own laptop, but that's the way to go. So first of all, thanks very much for the invitation. Thanks, Dr. Doran and Professor Bandyopadhyay for the invitation. Some of you may know that Dr. Bandyopadhyay is my, is someone who gave me the exposure to the research, particularly in NLP when I was doing my master's in Jadavpur University. So in that sense, he's my first guru in the world of research. So and good evening to all of you. So in today's talk, as you see here, the title, Combating Hostile Posts on Social Media, Leveraging Linguistic Signals and Social Networks. As Professor Bandyopadhyay rightly pointed out, that we are currently living in a time where multimodality is one of the aspects in natural language processing. We should leverage text, image, videos, as well as something called networks. So in today's talk, I'll mostly focus on social network, which has been considered as another modality for different language processing tasks. So, so before going into the technical discussion, by the way, so if you have any query, please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time. Okay, please do not wait for the end. Please interrupt me at any point in time. Please try to make this, these interactions as interactive as possible. Okay, you can unmute and you can ask me directly in between. So let me start by showing some examples taken from different social media platforms. So this is a news article written on Assamese language, although I don't know Assamese, but I know Bengali, so I can read this news article. Let me read it. দু টকাওই অধিক বয়ফ্রেন্ড থকা ছড়ালিয়ে ভরিব লাগিব 10,000 টাকা এই কথা আজি ঘোষণা করিছে ডক্টর হিমন্ত বিশ্ব শর্মাই. Is this the right way to pronounce it? Can someone from the audience let me know, is it the right way to pronounce it?
Yes,
Yes,
right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
If I correctly understand the meaning, it basically tries to say that girls with more than 2 boyfriends have to pay rupees 10,000, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
let's move to the next news, which is also related to Assam in some ways. Modi government paid rupees 40,000 for his daughter's marriage. He claimed that the central government had paid rupees 40,000 for the girl's marriage under the Prime Minister's daughter marriage scheme, right? So this is also related to Assam, and this was published in Assam News 18. The earlier was also published. I mean, it was shown to be published in News 18 Assam, and I think News 18 Assam is an authenticate news article, news channel, right? So our world is really incredible. Stories like these two that I mentioned here are really sensational, right? And at the same time, they are fake. Okay, so how many of you now tell me, please try to be very honest. How many of you have considered at least one of this news as real news? Can you unmute and let me know? Looking at the news article at the very, quickly, how many of you have felt that, okay, the first news is a real news?
Yes, sir. So generally we do.
So the first news may not look like a very real news, but of course the second news looks like a very real news, because it can happen, right? But the unfortunate fact is that both the news articles are fake. Okay, so people are capable of consuming anything, okay, from fictitious flick of nature to political satire or political propaganda, right, like the second one, and causing you to really fall for it. So we see such sensational news articles almost every day. Not only can we read them, we can't wait to share them. Okay, so it is really unfortunate that we live in a time where fake news spreads faster than the real news, faster than the fact. While technological development is so advanced, that's growing exponentially, that we are dreaming of booking our land on Mars. We keep believing that the coronavirus is spreading through 5G network, 5G signals. So I'm sure that you all know how detrimental this fake news are for our society. Let me give you some of the examples, again real world examples taken from different news media. So this is again a news related to Assam. Assam police gets tough on coronavirus fake news, arrest 33, right? And now you possibly imagine that how it was difficult at that time 1 year back to convince people that, look, whatever you believe, whatever you see about coronavirus are not to be believed, right? You need to look at the actual fact properly, and then you believe it. News like alcohol cures coronavirus, or the news like kids are immune to coronavirus, right? So on and so forth. These are all fake news. And the fake news is so detrimental that it can harm society. It can harm our society. Now look at the first news, right? This Muzaffarnagar riot, fake news videos spread so rapidly that it incurred hate on our on social media, resulted several riots in different places in Delhi, right? In fact, it was so dangerous that in one of these news channels, G News, they claimed that this fake news may trigger riots or create war-like situation between two nations, India and Pakistan. So, but of course, at the same time, you have also seen news like this, where Assam Finance Minister terms Congress as fake news factory. So there is all this, political propaganda attacks by one political party to another political party going on almost every time. And during the election, I mean, these days situation like elections in West Bengal and other part of the country, you may have seen like this kind of news articles almost every day, right? So if you look at overall trend during coronavirus time period and right before coronavirus time period when the CAA and NRC were announced, and this is the more or less the trend of fake news, number of fake news spreading over social media. As you see, anti-Muslim was another propaganda, CAA was another topic that became very viral on social media. Then coronavirus hit us, and then we have seen a lot of such news, fake news. Then of course Delhi riot resulted after that, right? So now before going into the technical part of today's discussion, let me quickly introduce my lab. I lead a lab called LCS2, Laboratory for Computational Social Systems. We including PhDs, postdocs, RAs, masters, and undergrads, mostly work in two broad areas: NLP and graph mining, also known as complex networks. So in NLP, we mostly focus on two broad areas these days. One is called text summarization, abstractive text summarization, and other is conversational dialogue modeling. In graph mining, we are working on different properties of graphs, including communities, information diffusion, different types of adversarial attacks in graphs. But our major focus these days is to understand different types of malicious activities in online social network. Particularly, we are focusing on three such activities, malicious activities, exploring, designing tools and techniques to combat three types of malicious activities. The first one is collusion, different black market driven collusion on the online social network. The second is hate speech, and the third is fake news. And these three broad areas are funded by Google, Wipro, and Accenture. And this talk, I'll partly talk about our research, ongoing research on fake news, and briefly talk about our research on hate speech. And if time permits, I'll also briefly touch upon some of the other topics that we are working on. So this is more or less the outline of the talk. The first part of the talk would mostly deal with our research on fake news. I'll also give you some ideas about existing works on fake news. And then the second part would be on hate speech. So the part of this talk is based on one of the books that we have recently written. It's online, so you may possibly want to look at some of the chapters in this book. So again, let's look at two other examples of news articles. Okay, what do you think? Is this a fake news? So this news article was very was viral during the COVID-19 period in last year, and it says that it is coming. The agenda behind COVID-19 was microchip, or as Bill Gates says, digital tracking system for virus. Okay, what do you think? This is a fake news?
Yes, sir.
This is a fake news. Okay. How about this one? Trump delays Easter to July 15 to keep promise on coronavirus. By the way, I'm giving a talk on fake news doesn't mean that all the news that I'm showing here are fake news. Okay. So what about this one? Do you think this is fake news?
Yes, sir. Fake news.
Why this is a fake news? Why you think that is a fake news?
Sir, Easter and July, the relationship between the date when the Easter actually comes.
So Trump delays Easter to July 15.
Moreover, no one can
Then no one
extend the date of the festival.
Oh, well, Trump can do anything. Apart from the fact that this news was published on the Onion, which is which is an authenticated fake news media, okay, it's very difficult. This kind of news articles, it's very difficult to believe that this is a fake news. Yes, this is a fake news, but it is difficult to it is difficult to flag it as a fake news. Now look at these two news articles side by side, right? Do you really think that there are some differences between two news articles? I mean, the way we consume the news, these two news. So do you think that any difference between two? The first one is very straightforward, right? And one can easily believe that this is just a propaganda, nothing else. What about the second one? Second one is hard to believe. The reason is that it may happen because, as I mentioned, Trump can do anything. And say if we replace say July by something else which is near to Easter, then you can still believe it, right? So what I'm trying to say is that there are two types of fake news articles, right? One is more of a propaganda type, which harms someone, some social entity, maybe a person, maybe an organization, maybe a group of a society, or maybe a society as a whole, right? Whereas the news like this, the second one, there is no propaganda as such, but therefore it's very hard to it's very hard to believe that it's a fake news. Okay. So now, what is fake news is not a very well-defined thing. So according to this dictionary, it's a Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it says that there is no reason to include the term fake news into the dictionary. Okay, because this is, according to them, this is a self-explanatory phrase. So therefore, therefore it is not needed to define it properly. So the reason behind fake news is unlikely to be entered in our dictionary anytime soon is that it is self-explanatory compound noun, right? A combination of two dictionary words. Well, this fake news is not a is not something which is very new, right? It's been there since ages, right? Now some of these articles, as you see, were published in 1890, 1891, and there also the term fake news was mentioned in different news articles. So now some people say that fake news is an oxymoron. I hope you know what is oxymoron, right? An oxymoron is a figure of speech in which apparently contradictory terms appear in conjunction. For example, fake and news, these are apparently contradictory terms because news by definition is always true, right? So, but in Collins dictionary, fake news is defined in this way: false, often sensational information disseminated under the guise of news reporting. Okay, so they have tried to define fake news in some ways. But we think that fake news may be something that we do not like to believe. Okay, there was a famous meme which got very viral on social media, which basically says that how can I believe that this is a fake news? I know that this is true, right? So in social network terminology, this is called conformity bias or confirmation bias. So confirmation bias says that I want to believe something which I have faith on. For example, say I'm a BJP supporter. So no political offense, by the way. This is just for the sake of explaining things. So say, for example, I'm a BJP supporter, and there is a fake news on anti-Congress, right? So it would be easier for me to believe on that because of my own conformity, which says that this may happen, and I immediately, you know, share this news on social media. Okay, so in social network analysis, there's this famous term called conformity bias, you know, echo chambers, echo chamber effect, and so on and so forth, which, you know, which are possible reasons behind the spread of fake news and hate speech, these kind of things on social media quite fast. So now this guy, Porter Stewart, in 1964, he was a US Supreme Court justice. He said something very unique. He said that, you know, let's not you know, start debating on what is fake news and all, right? Let it come, right? Let us expose to such news articles, and then I will see what I want to do. Okay, so I shall not today attempt further to define the kinds of material, but I know it when I see it. Okay, although, you know, he mentioned this thing in a different context. It was on some, you know, some fact on some judicial case on pornography and all, and at that time he mentioned this thing. But this is very well applicable for today's scenario, where you know, where we are arguing to define fake news, hate speech, and so on. While we have been, you know, defining what is fake news and all, the word fake news had been announced as the, you know, as the 2017's Word of the Year by Collins Dictionary, and by the Word of the Year in the Oxford Dictionary in 2016. Okay, and there is this news which says that, you know, most people do not recognize the fake news, and there are lots of research articles which, you know, which say that why people do not want to why people want to spread fake news, why people I mean, it is not always the case that bots are responsible for you know, disseminating fake news. It is basically, you know, humans like us who are responsible for spreading fake news. Now, so, you know, this debate about what is fake news and all, it was a, you know, long standing debate, but in Europe, agencies like EU, right, European Union, they define fake news in different ways. They said that, okay, is there any query? Yes, please. I think there is a query. Someone just raised hand. Chetan, want to ask something? Anyways, so yeah, so European Union, they said that let's forget about fake news. Let's define fake news in other ways. So, you know, when people spread a news, right, maybe fake, maybe false, there are two aspects in it. One is the falsiveness, all this is called falseness, and the other is called the intent to harm something. Okay, so now a news can be false. Some parts of the news can be false, right? But it may not be that harmful. Right? For example, say if I change the figure, the number slightly, that may not be that harmful. If I change the date, that may not be that harmful. But news like, say, you know, image morphing, where you replace, you know, in a pornographic video or a pornographic image, you replace someone's face by someone else, right? Or say you state a fact which may lead to a riot, right, in some place. That is basically harmful, right? So depending on these two aspects, falseness and intent to harm something, intent to harm someone, they defined this fake news in three ways. So in one spectrum, this is called misinformation. In misinformation is something which is a false information, but there is no harm. It has no harm as such, right? Whereas there's something called malinformation, which is basically intended to harm someone in the society. Now, in between these two, there is something called disinformation. Now, disinformation is something which is false as well as intended. It is intended to harm someone or somebody in the society, right? There are 7 different forms of you know, information disorder. including satire or simple parody, or misleading content, fabricated content, false connection, false context, and manipulated content. So these are like spectrum. This is the whole spectrum of ways you can create fake news or disinformation. So in while we had been discussing about fake news, misinformation, disinformation, now this COVID hit us right last year, and the rest is history. We all know that the average amount of time that we spent on social media has increased drastically due to all this work from home culture and other other things. And as a result, we have heard of a new term called infodemic, right? And we all know this famous quotation by WHO president. He rightly said that we are not just fighting an epidemic, we are fighting an infodemic. We have been exposed to a tsunami of fake news and hate speech almost every day related to coronavirus and other social things, in post-COVID or during COVID, I would say. And he also mentioned that fake news spread much faster and more easier than this virus, and is just as dangerous. Okay. So I hope that I have been able to convince you that why fake news detection is an important problem, and how detrimental this could be for our society. So if you have any query, this is the first introductory part of the talk. Now I'm moving to the more technical part. So if you have any query, I'd be happy to take. Okay, so if not, let me proceed. So it is not that we started working on fake news when this COVID-19 started. We have been working on this since last 3.5 years, but this got a lot of attention during COVID because of multiple reasons. So COVID-19 misinformation dataset was not available, not publicly available when we started working on this problem. And at the same time, as you all know, that fake news detection is, annotating what is fake news is very challenging because of the subjective nature, as well as medical misinformation requires experts to label what we mean by fake news, what we do not mean by fake news. What is not a fake news. So limited data was a problem. So we wanted to develop a method which is a semi-supervised method, which can leverage both labeled data, limited labeled data, and a lot of unlabeled data in some ways. And the next challenge was how early we can detect fake news, because the way it damages the society, right? If we allow it to expose or to be exposed, for a long time, that may incur a lot of damage. So we do not have the freedom to scrape more data on a particular news, analyze them in the laboratory, and then detect it. We don't have that. We don't have this flexibility. So the question was how early we can detect fake news. Okay. Then within a fake news, it may not be the case that all the sentences are false or all the sentences are the misinformation. Possibly there are some sentences which are misinformation, right? So is it possible? So the question that we ask, that is it possible to first identify which sentences are claims, okay? Because most of the times claims are falsified, okay? So can we detect claims first, and then can we automatically verify claims based on some ways, right? The next one was, again, it is not that all fake news are equally, all fake news are equally leading to leading to be viral, right? There are fake news, or there are news articles which are going to be very viral, which are going to be extremely viral within short period of time. So can we predict the virality of a news article, particularly fake news article? And then the last question was, can we make everything together, and can we deploy it as a real world tool, right, which can crawl news articles almost 24/7 basis and identify which one is fake, which one is real. Okay, so these are the aspects that we tried to address in last 1 year, 1.5 years, and I'm going to give you a glimpse of some of this research. So I may not have time to elaborate everything, but I'll give you a brief of some of this. So we started working on this problem with a very simple approach called unsupervised approach. It's a very simple unsupervised approach to detect fake news using graph-based approach. So my PhD was on graphs, right? So I mean, most of the cases I try to model problems as graphs and try to solve it in different ways. So we thought of solving this problem using a graph-based problem. So just give me 1 minute. Let me switch on the fan. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, so we pose this problem as a graph-based fake news detection problem, and this is our setting, right? So we try to differentiate between fake news and real news without any historical data, without any labeled data, right? And of course, since this is an unsupervised approach, we had to take some heuristics. So depending upon the heuristics, we first identified some seed nodes or seed labels, and then we used some mechanisms to leverage the seed labels to label the unknown news, right? So the whole idea is based on something called coordinated attack, right? This coordinated attack is a very famous attack in social media. So look at this example here. There are 3 tweets, right, related to Indian politics. And if you look at the text here, the text is almost same, right? In the first tweet, there was this mention of Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party. The second tweet, you see this hashtags hashtag like Pakistan, and the third tweet, there is no hashtag, there is no mention. Otherwise, the text are almost same. An interesting point to note is that the time, right? The first one was posted, all the tweets were posted same day, right? 27/6/2020, and almost same time, right? This is called coordinated attack on social media. Okay, so we try to detect this kind of coordinated attack on social media for fake news detection. So this is the setting. So we have articles, news articles. Remember, these are news articles shown on the left side. These are news articles, and we have users, social media users on the right side, and every social media user has tweeted about a particular news article on Twitter, right? So there are 3 entities. One is social media user, other is news article, and the third one is tweet, right? So a tweet includes an URL of a news article. Okay, and in this setting, our target is to detect coordinated attack in some ways, right? In order to identify fake news articles. Okay, I hope the setting is clear to all of you. Okay, so, and of course, what we are leveraging the text present in the news article. We are leveraging the tweet text. We are also leveraging the time when it was posted, and so on, right? So this so the entire approach is basically has 3 phases, right? So phase one is something called identification of by clicks. I will tell you what is by click. right? And the second one is something is a step where we identify some of the seed articles from the BICLIC, and the third one is to is basically the main detection phase. Okay, so any queries so far? It would be really interesting if you guys interact, so that I also do not feel that monotonic, right? So what is BICLIC? BICLIC in graph theory terminology is a complete bipartite network, right? Now, what is bipartite network? This is an example of a bipartite network. You see there are two partitions. One is user partition, other is news article partition. And if a user has tweeted about an article, there's a link from user to article, right? And this is a complete graph. What is a complete graph? Because each user is connected to all the articles, right? So our first target was to identify BICLICs from a bipartite network. From this kind of, yes.
It is similar to the bipartite graph.
This is a bipartite graph. Now from a bipartite graph, we are identifying BICLICs. From a bipartite graph, we are identifying clicks.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now what does this BICLIC signify? Each such BICLIC signifies that same set of users have posted about same set of articles. And this is something we call it as a coordinated attack, right? So we first identify BICLICs. Remember, BICLIC identification is an NP-complete problem. So we proposed an approximation version of it. We also theoretically showed the bounds of this algorithm for BICLIC detection, limits, etc. Right. So once we identify BICLIC, the second task is for each article, right? Now for each article, now we define two quantities. The first quantity is called temporal coherence. Right? Now, what is temporal coherence? So temporal coherence for an article measures how close in time where two posts related to the same article have been posted, right? And both the posts belong to the same BICLIC. We are capturing the time here, right? And the second quantity is called textual coherence. Textual coherence is basically measuring how similar the text is in terms of the content it has, right? Now from each BICLIC, right? These two metrics are defined for each article. Now we converted an article level metric to a BICLIC level metric. Okay. Now remember, each BICLIC consists of a set of articles. Now we then define something called TT score, textual temporal score of a BICLIC. So TT score of a BICLIC is a weighted average of the temporal score and textual score of all the articles present in the BICLIC, right? So we get the TT score for each BICLIC. And in the third step, now remember, each article, one article can belong to multiple BICLICs. Okay, it can belong to multiple BICLICs because BICLICs are essentially overlapping in nature. So for each article, now we measure the average TT score, right? Depending upon those BICLICs where it belongs to, right? Now at the end of this stage, for each BICLIC, we have a TT score, right? Now what is the hypothesis? Our hypothesis was that for those articles whose TT score is very high, might be fake articles. Those articles whose TT score is low are real articles. That's our hypothesis, because we assumed that fake articles are spread in a coordinated manner. Okay, and TT score essentially tries to capture how and what's the way that a particular news article has spread on social media, right? So we arrange all the news articles. I mean, we arrange in a descending order, whatever, descending, ascending order. We basically sorted all the news articles based on the TT score, and we take top 5% articles with high TT score as fake articles, and bottom.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, we are giving the same weight to temporal coherence and textual coherence.
Yes, it is an average. It is just
Equal?
an average. It is just an average, so same weight.
Okay.
So can you take an example how the bi-click will work?
What do you mean by how the bi-click will work? So you are given a bipartite network. So forget about bipartite network. Take a normal graph. Okay, you know how to detect clicks from a normal graph, right? Now, when it comes to bipartite network, this is basically bi-click. Same in click in a normal graph is same as bi-click in a bipartite graph. So we first extracted bi-clicks, right? Then what we did, then for each news article, we measured something called TT score. This TT score is a combination of temporal score, temporal coherence score, and textual coherence score, right?
Yes.
And then,
Sir,
yeah.
sir, in the in the bipartite graph, suppose if the number of users are more, if the number of links are more, na sir, then overhead is there, na sir.
Yeah. So what?
Then more overhead is means it takes some time, na sir.
Yeah. So if you increase the data set, of course the overhead will increase.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you increase in any algorithm, if you increase the data set, the overall the overall overhead will increase. But remember, as I mentioned, by-click detection is not straightforward. In our paper, if you look at our paper, we proposed an approximation version of by-click detection, and that turned out to be very efficient compared to an exhaustive version.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now what we had now, so what we have for each news article, we have a TT score, right? Then we arranged news articles based on the TT score. We sorted news articles based on the TT score, and we hypothesized. Remember, this is an unsupervised approach, right? We do not know the label of the news articles. So we assumed top 5% articles with high TT score as fake articles, and bottom 5% articles as real articles. Okay. So now this is not the end, by the way. So now we created another graph. Now this graph is not a bipartite graph. This is a normal graph between news articles, right? So we have news articles, all news articles, and now two news articles are connected by an edge if these three things satisfy, right? And each edge has an associated weight, right? And what are the factors to compute the weight? The first factor is something called user similarity. So the similarity between two news articles is measured by how many users have retweeted about these two articles together, plus how many by clicks both the news articles are present, plus the similarity between their content. Okay, as you see, the weight is determined by three factors, and of course these are parameterized. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Hello, Tanmoy, are you there? Tanmoy?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, there's some problem in the internet connection.
Okay.
Let me turn off my video. Okay.
Okay.
I think
Please
there's some
share.
problem in the, yeah. But I hope you can hear me properly. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry for all the mess. So I'm not sure what is happening here. I hope you can hear me now. So, so where were we? Yeah. So once we, so now we created another graph where nodes are news articles and two news articles are connected if there are some similarities, right? In some ways, as I mentioned, in terms of users, by clicking, etc. And then we used, and we already know the labels of some of the news articles based on our by-click TT score, right? Top 5% articles, as I mentioned. And then we, we ran normal label propagation type algorithms, and then we label the remaining articles present in the graph. Okay, this is a very simple and very elegant approach, and it showed that it turned out to be highly effective for fake news, which are generally spread on in a coordinated manner. Okay, and you may also understand that some of the news articles may not belong to by-click, right? Therefore, those articles would not be annotated in the phase 2 part. Therefore, we added more edges, right, based on two other factors, users and similarity score, because they do not belong to any click. Therefore, we connected it we connected them in different ways, and then we again ran normal label propagation type algorithm for labeling the remaining articles, right? So this is all about unsupervised way. Any queries so far in this unsupervised version?
Yes. So ideally, like if a particular news article, is to be part of by-click, so basically we are actually concentrating on the timestamp also. So if multiple news articles,
timestamp, users, and text timestamp and users.
Textual coherence, basically.
Yes.
So ideally, like, what I saw, like in the phase 2 and phase 3, you were still basically calculating that similarity, basically the text similarity, right?
Yes. So
but only for by-click, the time is what I think it's most important.
Yes. So for bike, time is used for measuring TT score.
Correct.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, and TT score, remember, TT score is important to identify the seed news articles, seed labels, for this label propagation.
Okay.
And
yeah, please go ahead.
No, boliye, please go on.
Okay. Okay, okay. So, and the timestamp, like one more quick thing. So, timestamp basically, are you like calculating like the time duration or time gap between a particular news?
Yeah. So it's a very simple heuristics. We essentially took a window, and we assume that if we assume that if news articles were posted within the window, then they have same time, same temporal coherence.
Got it. Okay.
But it can be sophisticated.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
So, right now moving to the second way. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, that label information is something which is very difficult to curate for this kind of task. Therefore, we went with a semi-supervised kind of approach, right? And this is a neural architecture for fake news detection. I'm not going into the details of this, it's slightly complicated, but I'll touch upon the important aspects of this model. What it is doing is that it has 4 important components. The first component is that it leverages small amount of labeled data and a lot of unlabeled data. Okay. Second aspect is that it also uses something called exogenous signals or external signals or external knowledge, right? The external knowledge is something which may not come from Twitter, which can come from other social media, for example, news articles or Reddit post, Facebook post, and so on and so forth, right? Third important aspect is that it optimally combines different signals. One is this label information, unlabeled information, exogenous signals in a very sophisticated manner called cross-stitch network. And the fourth part is that it also explains why a particular news is tagged as fake news by the model. Okay, so I'm explaining these components one by one. So labeled and unlabeled data. So we basically, in our loss function, this is a neural model. A loss function has 3 different losses, as you see here. The first 2 loss, the first one is normal, maximum entropy loss. Second one is adversarial trading loss. So these 2 losses are supervised loss, whereas the third loss is a unsupervised loss. This is called varying adversarial loss, VAT loss, and we combine these 3 different losses, to capture both label information as well as unlabeled information, right? The first part. Second part is cross-stitch. Now, cross-stitch is a typical network which has been highly effective for multitask learning, right? But here we used it to combine different signals. As you see here, tweet feature, handcrafted tweet features like number of retweets, number of likes, number of replies, etc. are being fed here. This is user feature. User feature meaning user metadata, such as number of followers, number of followees, profile, etc. Are being fed here, and they are optimally combined using this cross-stitch, right? The third part, this part, is an external knowledge part, exogenous signal part, where we are essentially feeding news articles, right? News articles like kids are not immune to coronavirus, right? Do not take Elon's tweet too seriously, etc., etc. All these fact-checked news articles, their stance, their polarity, their sentiment, emotion, etc., everything, and right, and then these signals are being fed in this way, and you see, and this part is a raw tweet text. This is being encoded using normal word embedding followed by by LSTM, which basically works in a kind of a self-attention manner, and then finally all these signals are combined. This is the concatenated version of this of the entire entity, and then this is further fed to a softmax for final prediction. Okay, now this can also explain things. The reason is that we have this attention mechanism here, right? So if we have a tweet like this, kids are essentially immune, but elderly with existing conditions are vulnerable. This model will say that, okay, I'm labeling this as a fake news because of the words like kids, immune. These words are more important, are essentially, these are less important, and of course, other things are not important at all. So, this model is explainable in that sense as well, right? This is the result. We call this model as cross-syn, right? This is the name of the model, and as you see here, it outperforms both existing methods, supervised as well as semi-supervised methods, in a significant way. Okay. So any query? So this is the end. This is the second part. Any query here about the model? So here we are capturing unlabeled data, labeled data, external information, meta information of tweets and users. Okay. Any query? Okay. Moving to the next part. So cross-syn is good, but cross-syn does not take into account user network, underlying social network. Okay. So we then combined social network, heterogeneous social network, into cross-syn, and which resulted another system called endemic. Okay. So endemic is looks like this. Okay. It has again, it has three major components. It leverages endogenous and exogenous signals, same as cross-syn. It leverages underlying social network, follower-following network, and this time it is combining information using something called co-attention network. Now we are not using cross-stitch here. The reason is cross-stitch is time-consuming. It has two components, attention as well as cross-stitch, but co-attention kind of network captures attention as well as cross-stitch kind of things in an optimal way. So this is the component, right? You have these external news articles here. You are feeding the embeddings of news articles. You have oops.
So there is a network issue at the speaker's end. He will be joining soon once if the the network is restored. So please hold on for a while till he resume his speech. So apologies. The speaker is trying to reconnect with some alternate connection of the network. Please hold on. Once if he can connect, then he will resume his talk.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, Ranbir, hey, Tanmoy. Tanmoy, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, yes, yes. Please start.
Anybody, please confirm if you can
Yes,
hear me.
I can hear you, Tanmoy. We can hear you.